Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And this is episode 400.
400, yeah!
Welcome to another episode, everybody. It's good to have you all here. We hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Slow again.
Was it? Oh, see, we have a little delay, listeners, and I thought I was right on time there.
Nope.
Annoying.
You're not on the money, mate.
Oh, nope. Blame Riverside.
Riverside app, yeah. So, 400, dude. Bit of a big one.
Yeah, 400, man. Phew.
Been doing this for a little while now. Just a bit.
How many years?
Just over 10 years. Yep.
10 years.
Yep. 10 years of putting up with our waffling and innate just weirdness. Yeah. So we'll think about doing something big for the 400, but that's just, haven't got time to do any big event or meet up or anything like that. So what we'll probably do is after, I don't know, how long will it take to do another 100? For the episode 500, we'll probably do something big for that. How long will that take? I don't know how long.
When we're just brain in jars.
Yeah. Or just
in the future.
Or just a bubble around our head. As
yes.
we're being guided around by, evil sentient robots.
Walk forward.
Yeah.
Walk forward. Yes. Bumping into lampposts and stuff.
Yeah. So a big thank you then. We're not going to do anything too crazy. Not going to go nuts on this, but a big thank you though to all of you there are some listeners who have stuck with us, mate, who have listened to every single episode. We call them the Grizzled Ancients.
I love that.
So thank you very much for all of you that have stuck with the Big Blue Box and listened to us over the years, and for 400 episodes, and not to not include the newbies as well. If you've just discovered our podcast and you're here, you've only listened to us for a little while, or if this is your first episode even, then it's great to have you here as well. As we chat Doctor Who, we're just doing reviews at the moment. Normally we'll dive into some classic Who. We're almost finished with that actually, but on that note, if you are a newbie, if you've only just discovered us, go and check out the back catalogue of stuff. We've reviewed nearly all of Classic Who, all the spin-offs. There's some commentaries in there as well and whatnot. So yeah, go and check that out. But mate, it's been an interesting week. I haven't done anything Who related. I don't know about you. Did you say you've not done much?
No, I haven't done anything really. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. This episode's generated a lot of discussion. Probably, I'm just sounding surprised because I thought out of all the episodes, this was the one that I thought was just going to be a bit forgettable. But it's created a lot of discussion around it. So I've been listening to a lot of Doctor Who podcasts. But apart from that, mate, I haven't really done much at all. I was just thinking we should just get some badges made with "I'm a Blue Box Grizzled Ancient" made, because it's a badge of honour. You know, if you've been listening since the beginning, it's an absolute badge of honour to be a Grizzled Ancient. So we'll have to get some of those made, I reckon. Yeah. I remember when you first texted me about doing this pod review, and I was like, what, once a month or so? You're like, oh no, every week, dude. I'm like, every week? I thought we're never gonna be able to do that. And here we are. We've sort of managed it. We've had the odd little break, but we've pretty much kept it up, haven't we? Pretty much, yeah. Every week, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm pretty proud of that as well, because...
yeah, I was going to say, I have to say I'm a little bit proud of that, because I remember when you said every week, I was like, nah, I'm never going to find time to do this every week, but we sort of managed it. But no, I haven't really had much time to do anything Who related this week, I'm afraid. No. What about yourself? It was your birthday yesterday. Did you get any Who related gifts?
I did not this year.
Or you're too old for presents?
No, never too old for prezzies. But I did not get any Who related presents this year, mate. No,
because they think you've got everything.
Well, that's it. Yeah, they've learned over the years, family and friends and stuff. They've learned that if anything, you can't surprise a long-term Who fan out the blue with something Doctor Who unless you know that person very well. So if my wife was to buy me something Doctor Who, she'd probably nail it. But another family member, they'd probably get me some, I don't know, some random thing that I'd be like, oh God, I have to eBay that at some point or whatever. But,
Yeah.
So yeah, no Doctor Who stuff, mate. In a quiet week, I've not done anything Doctor Who related other than watch this week's review episode a couple of times. So yeah, and like you, I've seen I've got about 4 or 5 Doctor Who podcasts that I listen to regularly. So I've listened to their review of this episode and read a few blog articles on it and stuff. So yeah, other than that, mate, not anything crazy. So we haven't got anything news related to go through. There's no big Doctor Who news kicking around, as is mostly the case when there's a new series, when we're in the middle of a brand new series that's going out every week. There's, other than sort of the little tidbits that you get for each episode, like Doctor Who Unleashed, which is still going out, which is very cool, and other bits like that. There's no real big, announcements as such. But we did have one bit of news drop this week, dude, and which is crushing, horrible news.
Yeah.
We hate doing the whole, somebody's passed away announcement or bit of news and stuff, and this one's a biggie, mate. So William Russell sadly leaves us this year. A couple of days ago he passed away at the age of 99. Obviously, if you're a brand newcomer to Doctor Who listening to this fresh and you've never dived into classic Doctor Who before, William Russell was one of the original companions back in the 60s with William Hartnell, played Ian Chesterton alongside Barbara and Susan, and has popped up a little bit throughout Doctor Who. After he left the show, he came back. He had a brief cameo, didn't he, in the mockumentary, not mockumentary, the docudrama thing that's Adventure in Time and Space.
Oh yes, of course, yeah. He was a car park attendant, I think, was he? Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. So he's popped up every now and then, but as one of the OGs, mate, from back in the day, and such a lovely guy. I know you've met him a couple of times, and such a lovely guy. So yeah, he was 99, mate. So what a long, awesome life to have lived by the sound of it. And he was very hugely proud of his son as well, and as his son got into acting and so on, and a lovely family man, and yeah, just an overall really nice guy. And it's such a shame, mate. I hate doing news like this, but yeah, what a big one, mate, to lose.
Yeah, I must admit, when the news dropped, I was like, got that crushing feeling. I was like, oh no, not William Russell, because I know we always say nice things about people when they pass, but he genuinely was a very nice person to meet at conventions. Just a very gentle soul, really smiley and friendly, and I was lucky enough to meet him a couple of times, and he was always the same, just lovely person to meet. And I, like you said, he popped up a couple of times since leaving, the show. One of the true originals, right there from episode 1. So he was in The Power of the Doctor, wasn't he? He was a part of the group of companions they got back. So it was nice that we finally got to see him back in the show itself, albeit for a really brief scene, but at least he was in there. Because I kept thinking, when they sort of missed a trick, really, with having him and Carol Ann Ford still with us. We really should have had an episode with them in it by now. You know what I mean? I'm sort of desperate for Carol Ann Ford to be in an episode. I really want to see Susan make an appearance. So I think it's a real shame that we never got to see those two together on screen in the new series. But I do love the character of Ian Chesterton as well. I think there is something magical about that early TARDIS team, of William Hartnell and Ian and Barbara and Susan. It's just, I don't think we've had any sort of TARDIS team that is anything like that since, really. It was very unique to that era. But yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be in Mordred Undead, wasn't he? Obviously, he couldn't be I think he was contracted to be in another show or a play or something. So
that's right.
We ended up getting the Brigadier, which actually worked very well in its own right. But when you go back and watch Mordred Undead, because it's set in a school and everything, and the headmaster character, you could sort of see that it was written for Ian Chesterton, or with him in mind anyway. So that's a shame that we didn't get to see him during Peter's era as well. But yeah, very, very, very sad, mate. But 99 years old, that's a cracking achievement. And yeah, he leaves a great legacy behind. So
he does indeed. Yeah. So that's the, albeit sad news from the week. Yeah. Is a loss of one of the OG. Yeah. Anyway, let's not dwell on that. It's pretty sad. But at the same time, you have to, like you said, it's a great legacy to leave behind, especially for Doctor Who fans. If you're fans of anything to do with the classic era, especially Hartnell's era, you'll have a deep respect and love for William Russell. So there we go. Leaves us at 99.
Indeed.
Right, as I said, no big news to speak of really. Nothing going on. So before we dive into our review for this week's episode of Doctor Who, just a friendly reminder to make sure that you are following or subscribing to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can do that via just searching for us, a Big Blue Box, in any of the big ones, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all of that stuff. And just a quick heads up, from next week, our podcast will also be available on YouTube Music. So that's just going through the motions at the moment. That should be available pretty soon, in the next day or two, but certainly by next week, if you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, or if you subscribe to YouTube Music as your streaming music app, whatever, you'll be able to listen to us on there, which is all good. And you can also listen for free over on the website as well, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And while you're there, check out the reviews and the articles from our writing team. Those guys are very cool, and they put forward on the spot reviews. They do convention roundups, they do Big Finish reviews, they do opinion pieces on anything to do with Doctor Who, so that's cool. And also, you won't miss the roundtable episodes, which we do once a month, which is a podcast episode with the writing team. At the moment, we've sort of done half and half. So last week or the week before, the roundtable was sort of a mid-season roundup, if you like, reviewing the first 4 episodes. So next month, or later on in June, we'll do another roundtable and we'll review the last 4 and then do like a season roundup with those guys. So that's very cool. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, links on the website. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so get involved there. And we have a very cool Discord server, so hop in there and chat Doctor Who with lots of other cool Who fans, and there's a link on the website for that. And lastly, don't forget to remember to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It's called The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yes. I'm on YouTube. I've got some new vids on the way, so go and have a look. But in the meantime, there's plenty of vids on there to keep you entertained. Mostly Doctor Who, one Star Wars video from about 10 years ago, and a couple of Blake 7 ones. But yeah, go check out my channel, The Geek's Handbag, also on all the socials.
Cool. Rightio, let's crash into this review then for Dot and Bubble. It was first broadcast on the 1st of June, a little while ago, and it was written by Russell T Davies, directed by Dylan Holmes-Williams, and it stars Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson as our TARDIS team, and about a dozen supporting cast members. And the synopsis is fairly short. Lindy Pepperbean is a happy citizen of Fine Time. She does her allotted 2 hours of work and has plenty of friends, but when her friends start to disappear and the Doctor and Ruby call, she's forced to look beyond her bubble and confront a horrible truth. So, sinister stuff afoot in this episode, dude. So what were your thoughts then, mate, sort of generally after watching this one? Have you seen it once or a few times?
No, I've seen it twice. I always try and watch an episode twice. I watched this at midnight. I must admit, I've got quite into this midnight thing. I quite like the build-up of, I mean, it does mean I go to bed late and then feel like rubbish the next day. But the last couple of episodes I've watched at midnight, and this one I did as well. And the trailer looked dreadful, so I did go into it with very, very low expectations, I think. I just thought this was going to be the sort of mid-series fluff episode, just a bit of fluff. And I quite enjoyed it on a first watch. I thought it was better than I was expecting. I liked the concept of it. I couldn't quite work out all the way through there whether I was sort of cringing but quite enjoying what was going on. Does that make sense? My thoughts on it were just very conflicted throughout the whole episode, really. And when it finished, obviously we got that end scene, which we'll talk about, no doubt, which was quite powerful. And when it finished, mate, it was 1:45 in. I sat there and I thought, oh, actually, that wasn't too bad. I just was expecting it to be awful, but that was all right. I quite enjoyed it. And I love going online straight after an episode at midnight. I think this is why I've started to enjoy what the midnight thing is, because I love going on straight after the episode and seeing people's reaction to it. And I've never seen such a mixed... I was really surprised. I thought people were going to be really liking this one, and it was so divided. Like, there was no middle ground. Like, I feel like I'm the only person that sort of sat on the fence in the middle saying it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I just thought it was good. But everyone was either loving it, absolutely saying it was like a masterpiece, oh my God, that was so good. Or they were saying that is the worst episode of Doctor Who ever. That was terrible. And I was like, oh, okay. I just saw nobody sort of in the middle like myself. So I was like, okay. So I gave it another watch yesterday, mate. I don't think I enjoyed it as much on a second watch, which is surprising because more people seem to be saying they got more out of it on the second watch. So again, I feel completely out of sync with everybody else and what they're saying. But on a second watch for me, I was getting irritated by the characters. There were a lot of plot holes, and I didn't enjoy it as much. But I still think it's a reasonable episode. I do love the concept, and I think the way I'm going to sum my feelings up are, I like what RTD was trying to do. He was trying to do Black Mirror, but I like the concept he was trying to bring, but I don't think it succeeded. I guess I think it fell short, didn't quite hit the mark, but I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was great. I'm just a little bit in the middle on this one, which is somewhere I don't really like to be. I'd rather be able to say, oh, it was terrible, or it was great, than just, I thought it was all right. So, a bit in the middle here, mate. I need to get your thoughts, and maybe by the end of this, we can come to a conclusion. Over to you. What do you think?
Okay, so what's the runtime on this? Was it 40 something?
44 minutes.
Yeah. So, out of 43 minutes, if you take out 3 minutes for the ending, I thought this was potentially the worst 40 minutes of Doctor Who I've seen in a long time. Long time. Worse
than Sleep No More?
Well, it's funny enough, I put that in our Discord server. I was like, I think Sleep No More's got some competition. So I'm not sure if it's any worse than that or not. But I think this one, dude, for me personally, has fallen short on two very, very big things with this. Like the opening scene, the first minute, I guess, I was like, okay, this looks fairly interesting, but very, very quickly, I was like, I can see exactly what Russell's doing here. And it's about as subtle as a rocket ship flying at your face sort of thing. And so the first thing, I think a lot of people's expectations were driven quite high by the whole, this is going to be a Black Mirror-esque inspired story and all that stuff. And it was nothing like Black Mirror, to be honest with you. I don't know if anyone's seen Black Mirror before, but the cool thing about that show is that it's very, very good at either keeping the suspense up or keeping the twists very just like mind-blowing, but also having this incredibly dark kind of not satire, but like, I don't know, like a view on the world and a view on life. It's very dark and that sort of thing. And so when I saw it, and early on, when I was like, okay, this one's going to be a Black Mirror, I was like, okay, this could be cool, because last week with 73 Yards, when we reviewed that, I said I really loved the whole mystery side of things and like the scary nature and that sort of thing. So for this one, I thought, okay, we're going to have more of that. It's going to be very, kind of a dark. So it does have a dark undertone to it, of course, and there's some quite not nice subjects, to deal with, especially at the end. But mate, I was just thought the whole thing is way too obvious. It's too obvious. Like there's no subtlety to it that makes you think about the episode afterwards. So the first thing for me, which is one of the big ones, it doesn't make you think. It absolutely no way after watching this episode did I think, that was an interesting thing, an interesting point that Russell was trying to make there. Because he deals with certain sort of social behaviours and sort of generation sort of plot points and obviously the racism thing. Let me just ponder that a minute, because he didn't really hit the nail on the head. He was sort of skirting around it and made you... There was none of that. It was just like, right, okay, so young people are freaking stupid. Young people rely on technology. Young people can't do work. Young people can't do that. And at the very end, oh, by the way, we're pretty much 100% racist. So, yeah, that's not going to work either. And the whole thing was just so obvious. I was like, right, you've spoon-fed us the entire thing, and now I don't need to think. Like there are some TV shows where they are not designed that way, but you don't have to think too much to get the enjoyment factor out of it. You can almost have it on in the background. Whereas Doctor Who, I like to think anyway, gives you that sort of thing that you discuss down the pub with your friends for years on end, or you and I will talk about something to do with an episode from, I don't know, at any point, and you and I will just discuss various things about it forevermore, and that sort of thing. Whereas this, it's like, what can you talk about in this episode other than what's been slammed in your face?
Yeah, you thought it was a bit too on the nose.
Yeah, it's like nothing. It's like, what do you think of Dot and Bubble? Where it's about stupid young people being racist. Like that's your thing. So that's the one big thing for me. And then the second big thing for me kind of links into that a little bit, is that my youngest son, who is just turned 17, it fits exactly into that kind of generation where, he uses his phone a lot. He does have a screen on all the time, pretty much all the time. He uses it a lot. Now, he didn't see this episode, but I know for a fact that if he had have watched this episode, he would have been like, this is BS. This is absolute BS, because although I look at a screen a lot, that doesn't mean that I'm incapable of functioning and doing everyday things. It doesn't mean that I can't navigate my way from A to B successfully. It doesn't mean that I can't switch that off and, have interactions with people and so on. So I feel like it was a real over the top dig at sort of the younger generation. And I know from our generation, it's surprising that I feel this way, dude, because there are a lot of times where we do talk about the younger generation. It's the whole thing about them being snowflakes and reliant on technology all the time and all. And I get that. I totally get it. But I just felt like it was a way too the other way, So that's my initial thoughts, mate. I thought it was absolutely terrible for those two reasons, other than the last 5 minutes where I thought Ncuti just gave one of those amazing Doctor reactions. That's probably going to be, that's probably going to be clipped and used whenever there's a trailer about Ncuti or a recap or any kind of, like when a Blu-ray box set comes out and there's going to be a that's the sort of thing that's going to be in all the clips about Ncuti and all that sort of stuff. So that's my thoughts overall on it, dude.
I must admit, I am worried that a lot of people that are calling this out as the best episode ever are just literally focusing on those last few minutes. I've noticed that a lot, that, it was a great sort of scene at the end, Ncuti acting his socks off. But that's one of the things why I'm trying to sort of get a balance here about this episode, because I think a lot of people that really are praising it is mainly down to those last few minutes rather than the episode as a whole. Mm-hmm. In terms of the themes, mate, I mean, I've watched all of Black Mirror, because there's about 6-7 series, isn't there? And some of them are so dark. And like with any series that's contained episode each week with a totally different story each week. Some are good and some are bad and some are really disturbing. But it's it is a good show overall. And I can see that Russell's leaning into that, but it's almost like you said, it's almost like he's gone a bit too fluffy with it. It's like you're either got to go all in or not at all, because even that end scene, it's left open to interpretation, isn't it? We all assume it's a comment on racism.
Well, it definitely
they don't
is.
Want to go.
It definitely is.
It definitely
because
is.
Russell T Davies, when he was being interviewed in Doctor Who Unleashed, the companion behind the scenes series thing, he categorically says in it, look, this is about race, because he says, I'm wondering how long it will take viewers to realise that everyone in the episode is white. He says, will it take you 10 minutes to realise that there are no people of colour? Will it take you half an hour? But by the end of it, you'll absolutely know that, this is absolutely about race. So, and that sort of thing that, I know I applaud him for that, because it's, you shouldn't shy away from that. And he does make a good point as well in that, he was saying that because of, the Doctor's skin colour, he's going to face challenges in terms of racism, especially when he goes back in time. But then he said, but why should issues with race be confined to the past? He said, if you look at the world today and everything like that, who's to say that, in the future, in the far future, like this episode set, that we're still not, we're still going to have problems with racism and so on. So, it's, I applaud him for that, definitely. And also there are a couple of positives throughout the episode. I don't just want to completely destroy it. We're not all about that. There are a couple of positives, but which we'll get onto, but my enjoyment factor of the episode was like, no, it's not,
didn't land for you, because that's the thing. Some of the themes that he explored in this, for me, I do get what you're saying, but I sort of liked the sort of commentary in a way on modern life, because I get annoyed that whenever I go out for meals with family and stuff, all the kids are on their phones, and I'm as bad. I get annoyed with myself, genuinely. Like I sit on the sofa looking at my phone all the time, and I'm like, Ad, get off your phone. Watch, I'll put a film on, but then I spend half the time on my phone. I think, why did I even put that film on? I get annoyed with myself for being so consumed by this blimmin' phone. So I liked some of the sort of themes that Russell was saying in this episode, like everyone in their own bubble. Like you said, it wasn't subtle. It wasn't subtle at all. I totally appreciate that. But the thing you say about noticing that everybody in the cast was white in the episode and that, the first thing I noticed is how annoying everybody was. I was just like, within seconds, I was like, oh God, these characters are so cringy, all the people on the screens. And I know they were meant to be, but in terms of enjoyment, it's always different watching an episode when you're on your own and when you're with someone. Right, so some things might make you cringe if you're watching it with someone else, because you're watching it hoping they're enjoying it and watching it through their eyes in a way. So I was wondering if this would be an episode where, if I was sat watching it with my husband or sat watching it with my best friend, or would I still be sat there thinking, sort of enjoying it, or would I be sat there sort of hunched up thinking, oh God, this is so cringe? Because it does make a difference, because like with Space Babies, I was cringing all the way through it, but I was watching it with my partner. So, you know what I mean? It's like, I think it is a cringy episode. It isn't one that I'd recommend to someone who perhaps, knows what Doctor Who is, but doesn't watch it very often. I wouldn't say, oh, you got to see this week's episode. It's absolutely a banger, because I know they'd be sat there going, this is terrible. Like, it's so bright and just over the top. So it has a little bit, I have to be honest, and I love season 24 McCoy, but it did have a bit of a season 24 vibe to me, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll let you decide. But it just had that sort of feel to it where it was very cringy, a little bit on the nose, but I kind of liked the sort of story flowing through it in the sense of what it was trying to say. But I do have to agree with you on many things. One of the things I couldn't get my head around, mate, was, okay, she's in the bubble. It tells her that she's got to walk forward, left, and all this. And so eventually she has to walk on her own. Okay. And you sort of think, well, all right, she can't walk. She walks into the lamppost twice. I know it's sort of done for comedy effect, but that to me was sort of getting a bit silly. And then in the next scene, she's sort of running around and she seems to be walking fine. It was as if we'd had a scene cut there where she's like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this, or, you know. But if she was put into that world, into Fine Time, you know, if everybody in there's from the age of 17 to 27, which is what she says, you telling me she didn't walk? 17 years old, surely she knows how to walk. You know, it's just one of those little things that kind of bugged me. That so she went in at 17 and she's forgotten how to walk on her own, but now she's running around perfectly fine in the second half of the episode. There were just little things like that which I just thought were irritating, if you know what I mean. That we will come to the plot holes. On a second watch, there was quite a few actually that I kept thinking, well, hang on a minute. If that was that, why this? You know, there was quite a lot of that going on the second watch, and I'll come to a few of those as we go through the episode. But yeah,
no, I agree with that stuff, dude. It's it's kind of, it's trying to invoke a kind of feeling of like, okay, people in this particular future, in this particular location, they literally can't function. But that that only works so far because what's that animated? I think it's excuse me, the animated film WALL-E.
Oh, WALL-E, yeah.
Yeah, there's we find out later on that all the humans are essentially just overweight, you know, can't do anything, to the point where they don't walk. They can't walk. They're just in these floating, hovering sort of things, you know. So that kind of makes sense to me. So if somebody like that was to then just be tipped out of the thing and try and walk when they've never walked since they were, you know, what, that's fine. I can get on board with that. But if somebody has actually been walking around their entire life, all we're talking about here is direction, right? So when the bubble goes, when she turns the bubble off and she's, you know, she can see where she has to go. So it's not like her legs don't work, and it's not like her eyesight doesn't work. It just doesn't, that doesn't work.
No, that's exactly. It kind of proves the point you're making, because it's like, okay, we get they rely on the bubble to function. We get that, but to then take it to this extreme that she can't even walk in a straight line, like you said, that's a little bit too much on the nose, isn't it? Yeah. Like to walk into a lamppost twice. Oh, come on. She doesn't rely on the bubble to, you know. I know that's what I'm just trying to sort of prove your point. It was almost taking it to an extreme that they rely on the bubble for everything, and that didn't. Mm-hmm. That was too much. That didn't really work. I agree.
Yeah, and So let's talk on a few positives then, because I don't just want to bash the thing forever. I'll come back to a couple of negatives in a little bit, but
okay.
Some positive stuff would be I thought that visually it looked pretty cool. You know, when you see from both points of view, so when she's in the bubble and she sees like all the little panels flying by of all of her friends, and then when the doctor pops up, and then Ruby and stuff, and when you see outside the cameras outside of that, and you're looking at her and the bubble around her head and the little dot floating around and stuff, I thought that all looked really cool. And some of the location stuff was really cool. So they're down in Swansea, one of the campuses on Swansea University, and you know, it's got that whole sort of contained thing about it, because that was one of the cool things about the story, was that all of these young people have clearly just been abandoned, right, on this planet, but they've been contained in this little area, and they call the outside area, I think it's like the Wildwood.
Wildwood, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's got that thing about, you know, we don't venture into outside of the, you know, the vicinity and stuff, and you know, that I feel like that warranted a bit more. Maybe that's a sequel, mate. Next season, maybe we'll catch up with them, how they're doing in the Wildwood and, and all that stuff. But it's so I thought that was really cool, visually how it looked and how they depicted Fine Time itself and all that stuff, and it almost had a kind of creepiness to it that we've seen. You know, WandaVision from Marvel.
Yes, yeah, WandaVision.
Yeah, so that had a particular look about it. You know, it had that old 50s retro style, vintage look about it. It almost had that vibe about it, that feel, you know, with the dress sense and the fashion and
yeah,
that
it
stuff.
did actually. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
So yeah, visually, mate, I thought it looked it looked really cool. This whole season so far has looked amazing. And we say that every season that goes past. But yeah, so visually, mate, and production-wise and all that stuff, for the most part, we'll come on to the giant slugs in a minute. But did you think this looked pretty good?
Yeah, overall, I thought production was good. Like you, I love the bubble effect and the sort of interiors and, like you said, the stuff on the campus. I didn't think it got a bit, it sort of went, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it went a bit sort of typical Doctor Who towards the end, where we went into that sort of grimy room where they were all trying to get out. Because I'm sure, like the corridor, I'm sure that's the same location that's been used in the Eccleston era and Tennant era and like the Nestine consciousness bit, all the industrial bit they were in at the end. Nothing wrong with reusing locations, but I was like, oh gosh, that location again. But yeah, no, overall I think it did look pretty good, I thought. Somebody on Twitter did say it would have been great if we'd have had a scene at the end, because you were saying about maybe we could go back and see how they're doing in the future. Somebody did say that it was a weird ending to the episode, and I agree. It did feel like it needed one extra scene. And someone suggested you could have seen them going out on the boat and then being loads of slugs in the water, and just slowly the boat got dragged into the water, and that was the end of them. Sort of them getting their comeuppance, if you like. But no, it did feel like the ending was a bit harsh, I have to be honest, in terms of the way it just finished. It did, I don't know, ended on the TARDIS door, but yeah, overall, mate, though, production pretty decent. But let's talk about the slugs, because I'm not sure they looked okay. I wanted them to be Tractators, I really did, but
Yeah.
They were a different beast, and they looked okay, but they didn't look great. I don't know. I didn't feel any threat from them, if you know what I mean, considering they were eating people, and we got a few shots where they were sort of coming towards us and you could see inside them. And I don't know if they actually worked as being a threat, to be honest with you. I felt like the little dot at the end was more as a threat. That was like, whoa, a horrible little thing. But the slugs, I don't know that they actually worked as a threat, to be honest. They looked a bit too cuddly. They looked like they were cuddling people rather than eating them.
Well, yeah, I mean, visually as well, they looked a bit basic as well. And in my opinion, mate, the episode could have done without them. As in, not in the story, but we could have done without seeing them. So it would have been left up to the viewer's mind to sort of imagine these horrible beasts that were out there somewhere, eating people and stuff. But, you have to sort of just go with that, right? So this is Doctor Who. So although we are trying to do a sort of a dark, undertoned Black Mirror style, supposedly, story, I think Russell and everyone else is aware that there are younger viewers that are watching it. So you need to have the visual aspect of a bad beastie that's out there eating people. Monster of the week. Exactly. Yeah. So you need that, I think, from a visual thing. So, yeah, I mean, the whole linking up with the sort of the AI has turned against them, right? So the AI, these dots, who are now sort of sentient and essentially just miffed with the people of Fine Time. Basically, it's now I don't know if it's explained in the episode. I can't remember if it's explained why the AI turned on them. I can't remember if that was explained or not, but
no, it isn't.
No, but essentially, yeah, they just sort of started to create these big slug monsters, and as a weapon against the humans. And it's kind of sort of poetic justice, I guess, from the AI's point of view, because what they could have done is create these very quick-moving, savage beasts that would just, take them all out very quickly. But because the AI knows that the humans can't function properly without the bubble, they just took probably great pleasure in creating the slowest moving monsters that you could, and just allow them to slowly be, eat people and so on. So I appreciated that element of it. That was quite cool.
Well, that's one of the things I don't really understand, though, mate, is like you just said, we didn't even need the slugs in the episode. So that's what I didn't get. Because at the end, the AI dot goes mad and just starts killing people, including poor old, what was he called? Ricky September, yeah. Gets it.
Or Ricky Coombs, ultimately, was his name.
That's it, Richard Coombs, yeah. So if the AI could kill them anyway? Why didn't it? What when it suddenly turned bad at the end, I was conflicted because I was like, oh, this is actually more effective in terms of being a bit scary because this thing's lethal. But also, if it could do that from the start, why didn't it? Is the AI sadistic? Does it just want to drag out the deaths as slow as possible? If it could kill them all anyway, why did it drag them out? And why alphabetical order? That didn't make any sense for an AI thing.
Yeah.
And another thing that didn't make sense as well, sorry to think, but I may as well while I'm on a roll, is surely the AI would know Ricky September's real name was Richard Coombs, so he alphabetically should get killed a lot quicker. It's AI, for goodness sake. I don't know. There were little things like that just didn't quite add up. So, but why didn't it just kill them, mate? Why did the AI suddenly turn evil at the end of the story? To me, it just felt like a bit of a quick wrap up. Yeah,
I mean, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because I think that's what links into the sort of, well, if he wasn't really on board with the episode, that's kind of the vibe you're getting with it. Is that sort of the concepts are there with some of it, but it's just the execution of it that just falls really short. And that's one of the things that falls short. It's like, we get it, the AI thing is a computer. So it's doing the logical thing of going through all the humans in alphabetical order because it's a computer. But that's kind of at odds with its own, with the story's own kind of storytelling narrative in a way, because it's saying that the computer is so advanced that it can essentially just control someone's life physically, as well as mentally. It can literally direct you around everywhere, tell you what to do at every turn and all that stuff. But on the other hand, it's so stupid that it doesn't create a monster that will just kill everybody and get the job done that you'd expect a computer to do. It does this old school calculator approach of just, targeting people in alphabetical order. So I can kind of see why it's done that way. It's a bit of a corner to write yourself into, though. That's the only problem with it. It's because when the main character, Lindy realizes that actually, you're telling the truth, because we had that scene, or a couple of scenes early on in the episode, where her friends are just disappearing. They're going offline, and they're always online, of course, so she can't reach them. But she doesn't really want to believe that anything bad's going on. And it's not until she gets to the realization that, people are going missing and the Doctor and Ruby are telling the truth and there are these monsters after, and then she sees them, of course. It kind of falls short, I guess, of that thing, because, she's relying on the bubble to do everything. And then the bubble suddenly or the dot realizes that, hold on a minute, we're not. So I think I get the point you're making, is at what point did the AI say, actually, we don't like the humans anymore?
Yeah.
At what point did we're just going to kill them. So it's weird because it's at odds with each other narratively. You'd expect the computer, which is super smart and has been controlling all the young people, to do the thing. But then when it comes to destroying them, kind of fails at the last bit because it's done this weird approach of alphabetically doing it. So it's strange. It's at odds.
I think there's a few things at odds in this story. I mean, this is the thing with Russell's writing this series, is that I feel like a lot of the time with the episodes he's delivered in this series, you can sort of see what he's going for and the story's almost there, but it almost feels, I wouldn't say like a first draft, because that's too harsh. It feels like there's bits that he should have gone back and just tweaked a few bits, and it almost feels like he hasn't quite finished the script for some of these stories. There's little plot holes like this and little things that probably could have been mended with a line or a little rewrite or something put in there that are just not there. So I have seen people saying, Russell's writing's got very lazy, which I think is a bit harsh, but I kind of know what people mean. That it's not that he's got lazy. I think it's just that whether it's a time thing, whether he just didn't have enough time to flesh these scripts out. But all the episodes from him this series, we felt that it's like the episode is 80 or 90% there as being a good episode, but just always seems to fall short somewhere. And this is definitely an example of that, I think, Phil, where you just think there are quite a few bits throughout the story where things just don't add up. Like if you look into it, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And it sort of goes back to what I was saying a second ago where, I mean, I can see why people would think that his writing, and I must admit, mate, the Russell T. Davies written episodes, I'm not feeling some of the writing, dude. Put it that way.
No, me either. And, I have to be honest, me either.
Yeah, so I think what's happened is when I mentioned earlier about sort of writing yourself into a corner a little bit, it's because you've got the AI side of things, the dots that suddenly, or what they want to kill the humans, whether it's suddenly or not, and then you've got you need some kind of plot mechanism to accomplish that. So like the AI wants to get rid of the humans. How is it going to do that? You can't just say it wants to do it, so it's going to do it, because it's a little round sphere. We had that really cool scene actually with Ricky, when it's flying around and it's like trying to slam into him and he's whacking it with. That was all very cool. So, but that's not really going to kill everybody, is it? That's just going to annoy people. So how
it's like a fly you want to squash.
Exactly, yeah. So how do you do that? You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to build a much bigger dot." With a laser beam, because that just becomes something like the Terminator, which has been, all those sorts of things that have been done a million times. So you have to write something that's going to accomplish what the AI needs to do. And because it's Russell, it seems at this point, it has to be some big slimy monster. And also, because it's Doctor Who. So, but that doesn't really land, does it,
No, it didn't really, to be honest. And how did the other people get out, mate? There's all this faff to get the code, and I know the doctors told them all where to meet and stuff, but how did they all get out on the boat before she got there? Because presumably they can't walk or anything without the bubble either, or how did they get to the boat bit at the end before her? And did they not display any signs of racism? Although the end scene is great, it does seem a bit tacked on. It does seem to come out of nowhere to me. Even though you watch it and think, okay, right, I get it. The whole point of this episode was, this. But were they nice to shoot his doctor up to that point? Because he seems completely shocked when she turns around and is like, "Oh no, we couldn't come with you." But how did they get out there? I mean, it took them forever to get that blimming code in, and the AI was trying to kill them, so they couldn't put the code in. So how did those other people get out there okay?
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't
why
it?
couldn't the doctor come in? If the door, if he's got the code to the door, why couldn't he go into the real world? Why couldn't he go into Fine Time World if he had the code?
I think
why is he stuck on the other side of the door?
Yeah, he does mention that earlier on in the episode when he's doing the video call thing. Because Lindy's like, "Oh, you two are actually together.
You're in the same
room, sort of thing." Yeah, he's like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he did say something along the lines of, "I'm trying to do something. I'm stuck here at the minute. I'm trying to do something, hack something or whatever, to do that." So it's just a very quick passing comment, but yeah, he does mention that he's stuck somewhere somehow.
But wouldn't the AIs have turned on all the other people trying to get out?
Well, this is the thing, dude. You would have thought that because all of the AIs linked up together, right? It's one huge network, which is evident because everybody just talks to each other through the bubble, so that they're all linked up, and So what you would have thought is that, alongside what you're saying, is very true. Like, it took Lindy and Ricky a long time to sort of navigate through the city, go underground, get the code, do all that. When they go finally into the conduit, it's like, oh, everyone's here. Like, you obviously didn't have the struggles that we had to get here. You've all managed to get here. But the other thought is that because all of the dots are linked up and it's all one big network, you would have thought that, like, okay, they've obviously intercepted and know that the Doctor is telling everybody to get to these different plaza, like Plaza 55, where the Doctor tells those two to go to, and to get to the conduit and all that sort of thing. You would have thought that the dots at that point would have been like, okay, the alphabetical plan is about to fail because everybody's about to escape. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pull the plug on that plan. All the slug dudes, I think they call them man traps, I think. Somebody mentioned them as man traps. Just go for it. Just eat as many people as you can, because the alphabetical thing is not going to work because everyone's going to escape.
Yeah.
So, but they don't. They just, the dots can clearly see that the humans are starting to wake up to what's going on, and they're now escaping. But the dots don't do anything. It's just like, oh, it's all right,
It's just another
Whatever.
little niggle, isn't it, in terms of the structure of the writing around the story.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you a question. Is Ricky September the new Pex?
Oh, then in Pax, you mean?
Pex. Because I think I've just realised what the last scene needed to be. Instead of saying Pex lives, we should have cut to the wall on the side that should have said Ricky September lives. So, in a homage to Paradise Towers. That's what was missing.
Oh, it's Pax, isn't it? Yeah.
Pex, from Paradise Towers. Pex lives.
What's his full name, though, dude? What's Pax's full name?
Pex September. No, I don't know. No idea.
Isn't it Paxia Theoserandral?
Yeah. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm noticing with these episodes as well, mate, and you've just pointed out, like a lot of stuff like the names of the slugs, the man traps or whatever, and like, you're getting that from Doctor Who Unleashed, and I'm thinking, shouldn't a lot of this stuff be in the episode itself? Like, I've noticed this in the other episodes as well. Stuff is explained in the making of show rather than being in the actual episode, and I'm thinking, well, how would we know that they're called that then? Because I don't watch the Unleashed, believe it or not. I haven't listened to the official Doctor Who podcast because I've seen clips of it and it looks absolutely terrible. I haven't watched any of the Unleashes because I guess I'm just not that invested. But it does annoy me that I hear people saying, "Oh, if you'd have watched Unleashed, you'd have known that was because of this or that was the name of that." And I'm like, well, that should be in the episode, surely. I do feel like the run times of these episodes are too short as well. This 45-minute thing, it doesn't. I keep saying every week it feels like a scene is missing or some dialogue is missing or that wasn't explained, and I think they should be even an extra 5-minute, 50-minute eps or an hour ideally would definitely allow these stories to flesh out a bit and be able to include stuff that is not being explained.
Yeah, true. No, I agree. It feels weird, doesn't it? It feels like you're just getting going, and then it's a quick wrap up, and it's weird. And I think. I don't know. It's almost a problem. So there was a huge problem with the Star Wars sequel trilogy films. There was when the last film came out, The Rise of Skywalker. There was this whole thing. You've seen it, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have seen it. There's this whole thing around the Emperor being on a planet called Exegol, and why is he on this brand new made up planet for Star Wars, and how did he get there, and all that stuff. And there was a tweet, a celebrity actually tweeted the Star Wars account or something like that. Oh, it was the guy, what's his name, from Lord of the Rings and some other bits who played Frodo. What's his name? The young chap.
Oh,
Elijah Wood. Yeah.
Elijah Wood, yeah.
Yeah, so he replied to the official Star Wars account saying, yep, that's all good, but I shouldn't have to go and read a book to understand the story and what's going on in the film, and he makes a very good point. And it's almost that we're almost on that sort of cusp of that stuff, because if I hadn't have watched Unleashed, I wouldn't have known about a couple of things in the episode. So it's kind of like, but we never had this before, right? Well, we didn't have it that often back in the first era of Russell's writing, right? It's when he wrote an episode before. Yes, there were some episodes that left you thinking, oh, cool, that's a little bit up in the air, that's down to fans to make their mind up and stuff. But in terms of the core elements of the story, you never came away head scratching thinking, why that? Why did we go there, and what was that about, and what were they called and stuff?
Do you think I should watch Unleashed? Because I must admit, I've been put off because of some of the stuff. I used to love Russell T Davies, mate. When you think back to the Doctor Who, what did it used to be called? Doctor Who?
Confidential.
The behind the scenes Confidential. Oh yeah, I used to love watching that. And
good.
Russell feels like a different person to me on those early ones because he's very bubbly. He's very happy. And I don't know. I wouldn't say I've just gone off him a bit. Like I hear him talk now, and he kind of grates on me a lot of the time. And so I haven't been watching the Unleashed because I fear it's out of a fear that he's going to say stuff that's just going to annoy me and going to affect my enjoyment of the show. Because some of the stuff they've come out with recently, I've just been like, oh. So I've kind of tried to sort of distance myself from all the stuff that they've been saying about the show and just watch the show itself. So I haven't been watching the Unleashes, but are they any good? Should I dip into them? Because I used to love Confidential.
Yes, I would give it a watch, mate. Yeah, because as well as Russell giving like little tidbits around some of the elements of the stories and stuff, there's actually quite a lot with other cast members as well.
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. I mean, they're all on the Hooniverse. Sorry, I'll definitely give them a watch. Just the runtime thing, mate. Do you think this is a casualty of Disney with the runtime thing? Do you think they've been told like it's 45-minute eps, or would that? I'm just wondering why, or is it just that that's what they've come in at? I just wonder if that's a casualty of the Disney thing, this short runtime, or not. Or do you think it's just what it is? Because you would have thought like. They're trying to bring this series back for bang, so you'd think they'd give like 50 minutes to an hour episodes at least. I mean, even the final, I think, is only 45 minutes, I think. Or maybe the penultimate is only 45, I don't know.
Do you know what, dude? I'm really not sure on that one, whether that's an influence from Disney or whatever.
I don't want to blame the mouse for everything, but you know what I mean? I just have to ask the question, like, could it be that they've commissioned 45-minute episodes and that's it?
Yeah, I don't think it is, mate. Purely because, like, if this was commissioned by another terrestrial TV channel, then probably, because you'd have to fit the episode into their whatever ad schedule and all that stuff, you know. But I think with Disney, knowing that Disney Plus is a streaming service and it doesn't matter, you know, the runtime of things to a degree. I think so it could be, mate, but it doesn't sound like it's a Disney thing. This sounds like it's a Russell, Bad Wolf Studios, BBC thing to me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because I think they know it's going out on terrestrial TV as well as streaming. The streaming side of it is probably irrelevant. Like you could have a 20-minute episode or a 3-hour episode. It's being streamed. It doesn't matter. Whereas you still have to slot this into BBC One's terrestrial schedule. So it either has to be half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour, you know, that kind of time frame. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know on that one, dude. But okay, let's. So what did you think to the whole? So there was like a bit of a backstory going on with the Homeworld. It's called, isn't it? So this place is fine time. Sorry, I was going to say fine time. And on the Homeworld. Apparently where all the parents are, we find out later on in the episode when Ricky tries to get a live link to speak to some of the adults, the older people there, the parents. He just sees the planet on fire, basically, and there's like, you know, there's these slugs that are kind of, you know, on the ruins, and they're looking up. So the whole thing's been wiped out by this, you know, those things as well. So that added to like the darkness side of things. But do you think there's a reason why he hid that from Lindy, because he sort of shuts the feed down very quickly? Is he doing it because he just wants to protect her view on things and doesn't want to upset her? Or do you think that he's doing it from the angle that Russell's wrote the episode, is that young people couldn't cope with that kind of thing? I was torn on that.
Oh, I don't know, actually. I just assumed he was doing it to protect her from it. But now you've said that, kind of makes sense, actually, given the way the rest of the episode is structured. Yeah, maybe he was doing it thinking she'll never cope with this information. That does different. Make more sense, yeah. Yeah,
because he's different to all the others, right? I don't know if he's the only
books.
One. Exactly, yeah. So he tells her that at the end of the work shift or the day, whatever, that he turns his dot off and he goes outside and he reads books and does all this stuff. So he's emotionally more equipped to handle it because he's not seen the real world, but he's seen the world outside the bubble. So he's a bit more equipped, isn't he, to deal with that? So yeah, you're probably right. He just wants to protect her from, because she would freak out. Obviously, you know, she'd go.
Oh yeah,
she'd have a meltdown.
I mean, we do see her mum at one point, don't we? Her mum pops up. Susan Twist makes another appearance as Mummy, his mummy. So, so once again, and they recognise her, don't they? The doctor actually realises it's the same face as the ambulance from, a few weeks back in Boom. So that it's interesting now. Ruby's recognised her as the hitchhiker, and now the doctor's recognised her. So this has got to be a thing, right? Russell says on the commentary for Boom that it was just because they didn't have enough actors, so they had to put Susan Twister. But that's nonsense. She's got to be some sort of big reveal character, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's got to be something, mate. There has to be something there. Yeah, defo. Yeah. And the character name, was it Susie Pentecost? Is that right? Who they called up? No, who is it? Sorry, that's the last person on the list, isn't it? Before she gets eaten. Who's the? It was Penny Pepperbean.
Penny Pepperbean. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Penny.
Where is Russell getting these?
Yeah,
names?
Interesting, dude. Pepperbean. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some characters. Before we talk about the ending scene, let's talk about some characters.
Yeah.
What did you think to clearly the star of the episode, right? Because this was a reasonably, not a Doctor light, but a TARDIS team light episode. And it focused more, it was like a Blink situation, right? Where that was all about, what's her face? Nightingale.
Sally Sparrow.
Sally Sparrow, sorry, yeah. So she was the star of that episode, and then the Doctor sort of popped up with Martha sort of a couple of times. It's the same kind of vibe with that, right? It's interesting that they've done 2 episodes on the bounce that don't feature the Doctor or the TARDIS team quite a lot. So that's quite interesting. But and we know that's because Ncuti was still doing sex education at this point.
That's right.
So the star obviously is Kaylee Cook, who's playing Lindy Pepperbean. And I think from a performance point of view, she kind of nailed the whole elitist kind of, because that's one of the sort of issues or sort of the things that's one of the tones of the story, right? The subject is not only is it like this kind of sort of racist thing towards the end, but this elitism, where she feels like her and her friends are better than everyone else and all that stuff. So she had a kind of a great performance in terms of here's what we want the character to be. This kind of stuck up, snobby, elitist kind of character. So do you think she nailed that? I think she did that pretty well, actually.
No, I thought she was great in it, mate. I really thought, what's her name? Kaylee Cook.
Cook.
I thought she was great in it. I mean, she's, the main sort of highlight for me in this episode is her performance. She absolutely gets the character she's got to be. She's just borderline. I'm talking about Lindy Pepperbean being borderline annoying, not Kaylee Cook, who was great at performing that. Like, she just gets the character, mate. Yeah, I thought she was really good. I mean, I sometimes when I get on the bus and there's teenagers on the bus and they all talk like that and it drives me mad. I sit there and I put my headphones in and I'm like, oh, shut up. They talk such inane nonsense. And Linda Pepperbean absolutely represented a lot of that. So I'm not saying all teenagers are like that, by the way. Don't start throwing tomatoes at me. But yeah, I thought she was really good in it, mate. And the bit at the end where she turns and gives the Doctor that look and she sort of rolls her eyes and stuff, she really, really understood, what was on the page and what she needed to do and how she needed to bring that, what turns out to be quite nasty character alive. Because I did think at one point, yeah, she's going to start off quite unlikable, but by the end of it, we're going to be rooting for Linda Pepperbean. I thought, she's clearly going to be put in danger. We're going to want her to survive. And actually, the twist that she wasn't a very nice person was actually pretty cool, I think. And I think she pulled that off perfectly.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. Yeah, she had a great performance in playing that sort of. It's one of those things where she's written to be unlikable. But sometimes with certain actors, they just got such a way about them, it's very difficult to dislike them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it takes in my opinion, it takes really, really good acting skills to make yourself unlikable. And I think she did that very well. There was a bit like you, I thought, towards the middle of the episode, is she gonna be this, like, sort of almost hero of the story?
Yeah, like a redeeming.
Yeah, she's going to save everybody and, all that stuff. But so in that respect, that was kind of Black Mirror-ish. Mm-hmm. That whole thing where you expect her to come good, but she doesn't. And the hero of the story, so Tom Rhys-Harris, who played Ricky September, who kind of is the hero to a degree, he ends up meeting his demise about 2/3 of the way through, which I thought was, it's almost like the whole thing's a reverse role thing, right? You expected him to be the bad guy. There was I thought any second now, he's going to turn around with this sort of maniacal grin on his face, and he's going to be working for the dots and whatnot. But yeah, sad times for old Ricky.
Yeah, and also I think that's one of the reasons I enjoyed this quite a lot on a first watch, was moments like that, if you see what I mean. Because obviously watching it the second time, I kind of knew that was coming, but on a first watch, I was quite invested in it. And then when she turns out to be nasty, but also when she turns on Ricky, I was a little bit like, no, really? That's harsh. There were moments like that, which I thought were pretty good in the episode.
Sorry.
Quite. I was going to say shocking. It is quite shocking in a way, isn't it? That she turns on him like that and she sacrifices him to save herself. I was a little bit like, oh my goodness, Lindy Pepper Bean, you are not a nice person.
Yeah. No, I got that same vibe as well. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. She is actually pretty unlikable.
Yeah.
And, okay. But yeah, so Tom Rhys-Harris, he had a pretty good performance from him. I think he's been in quite a few other things recently. He's had he's been in quite a few things sort of all close together the last year or two.
I thought he was good as well, mate, because I expected him to be, having seen him on the screen doing this sort of strange dancing, it was almost as if they hadn't picked the song they were going to use when they filmed that, because he wasn't really dancing to the song. I was thinking, is he just doing a bit of generic dancing and they've decided to put Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny over it at the final edit, because his movements didn't go with that song. But but his performance, mate, that's a character that could have been really cheesy and hammy, and I think he got a fine line of just getting it right. I actually really liked the character, albeit that he was only in it for the sort of second half of the story, if you like. So I thought it was a good performance from him. I expected him to be irritating and, I don't know, like the rest of them on the screen, if you know what I mean. I thought, when I saw him pop up, I'm like, oh dear. But he was really good. He was actually quite a likeable character, and I was a bit sad for him when he got taken out in quite a nasty way, actually. When that dot hit him on the head, or what? No, did it hit him on the head, or did it knock something on his head?
It knocks him on the head, didn't it?
Yeah, and then it knocks down a crane that just happened to be above his head, like a big thing, chain or whatever. He got taken out in quite a nasty way, so I felt a bit sorry for poor old Ricky September, or Richard Coombs as he's lesser known.
But in terms of stage name as well, obviously we're talking about Ricky September, which is his kind of social handle, I guess, rather than his real name. There were some interesting ones in there. So we had Gothic Paul,
yeah,
Blake Very Blue, Hoochie Pie, Weatherman Will. So Weatherman Will and Dr. P, they were interesting characters, especially Dr. P. It's like, right, it's time for you to go for a P now. Oh dear.
Do you know who I expected to pop up on that screen, mate? Honestly, because I just was waiting, because everyone on it was so irritating, all the characters. Purposely, I mean, I think they were meant to be, weren't they? But I honestly thought any second now, Doom is going to pop up on that screen with a little monocle saying, "Have you seen the Doctor? Oh, what time is it? Hang on, let me look at my clock," and then disappear. I thought it'd just be a cameo. I'm not even joking. I genuinely thought Doom was going to pop up on that screen for like a split second, and would have fitted in perfectly with the rest of them, to be fair. But because we kept hearing that this Doom spin-off, which completely flopped, was going to be in the show at some point, and I thought, this is the episode for Doom. But no, sadly not.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. In my head, dude, you're like talking about all these different characters, and you said about somebody popping up and so on. This could have been a really cool link to like a second version of Silence in the Library,
Yeah.
Like somebody's like consciousness has created all these things and it's gone nuts, and that sort of thing. And it turns out it's just, somebody's I don't know. It could have been a really cool link back to something like that. And
I do feel there was more potential. I absolutely do feel there was a lot more potential in this story.
Defo. Okay, let's talk about Millie Gibson then, because I thought out of all the cast members, she was the quietest out of it. And I think that's by design, right? Just the way that she was written. I mean, she said lots of words for about 3 or 4 minutes when she's trying to convince Lindy to come out of the bubble and do all that stuff. But that's about it, really. And then at the end, she says a couple of bits, and she's obviously distraught about what she's just heard being said to the Doctor at the end bit. But so kind of expected Millie Gibson performance based on what we've seen in the last 4 episodes. She's still very good, but I felt like she was reasonably quiet in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Millie in it, but she didn't. You're right. She didn't have a lot to work with. To be honest with you, I felt like there was a missed opportunity at the end. You know, with that scene with the Doctor, I almost expected Ruby to sort of let rip a little bit and try and stick up for the Doctor, and him to be like, no, Ruby, it's all right. You know what I mean? I expected her to go off on one a little bit, and I think that would have made the scene even more powerful. She'd been like, well, how dare you? Okay, you go for it then. Go and die. He's trying to save you. You know, she just looked mortified for the Doctor, which she would be. But yeah, I felt like they could have given her a good scene at the end there where she could have tried to defend the Doctor, and he'd be like, no, don't worry, Ruby, I got this, or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe they just wanted it to be left to Shooty to shine in that scene. I don't know. But she did well what she had to work with, mate. I thought she's so likeable. I really do. She's fast becoming like one of my favourite new series companions.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and like you, I thought she was really good when she was in it. But, because it was a TARDIS team light episode anyway, the two of them weren't in it as much as I would like. I think this could have been a really cool episode if they were out and about on the streets, dodging the slug monsters, trying to battle the dots a little bit and doing that stuff. It could have been a great episode if they were actually in it a lot more. I think they were a bit of a wasted time with those two. But yeah, I thought she was very cool, just not in it as much. And then Shooty Dude, similar for the... a similar thing, really, it's popped up obviously in the screens in Lindy's bubble now and again throughout the episode, and does that very cool thing that I think Shooty's got a handle on really quickly, which is that empathetic, really wants to help people. Has just got that nature about him, and which is really good. And we'll talk about the ending in a minute, but just the whole Shooty performance, just cracking. Again, I think, actually, let's include the ending. So with that ending, I think that's going to go down as one of the best moments from Doctor Who, for sure. I think, just that final bit, dude. I think we were all feeling it with him at that point. He was just amazing. And what's even more amazing is that after filming The Giggle and actually getting on to filming properly for this series, that was his first ever scene that he shot. Yeah. For the series. That is just mind blowing to me. There's and that's one of the things, dude, actually, that Russell says in the Unleashed segment. He was like, we talked about it quite a lot, should this be Shooty's first scene because it's quite hard hitting, it's quite emotional, etc. Should we delay that in this filming block, let him warm up into the character a bit more? And then in the end, they all just decided, we'll just go for it. We'll just jump in and do it. So an amazing performance from Shooty Dude, absolutely incredible, especially in that last few minutes. But just a shame we didn't see more of him, because I think that it could have been a massive, really big build up to that moment that would have been even more emotionally charged. But it was still amazing nonetheless.
Yeah, it was, mate. And like you said, incredible to think that's this is his first studio block. To actually get into that moment and sell it in that way. Just again, fantastic acting from him. Facially, the line delivery, he's absolutely just nailing it. Yeah, superb. A bit like Millie last week, totally dropped in at the deep end with 73 Yards being her first recorded story. I think it's a testament to the two of them. They're both very young actors that are absolutely proving their worth and showing why they were cast in the first place. I think both of them are doing a great job. But yeah, superb performance from Ncuti at the end.
Yeah.
It did make for a very powerful scene. You know, whether, like you said, I know you've sort of struggled with this episode up until this point, but it definitely sort of left its mark. And like you said, it'll be one of those scenes that get shown over and over again and used as an example of how good Ncuti is as the Doctor.
Yeah, no, I agree, dude. And and it was really well done, that last couple of minutes as well. You know, that, you know, when the Doctor's like, you know, I can save you all, you know, that's my ship, you know, I can take you all to, you know, to a new home, all the rest of it. You would expect them to sort of jump at the opportunity, because we're so used to that in Doctor Who, where people are excited at the look of the TARDIS and they can't quite believe that what the Doctor's saying. You know, it's not the first time the Doctor said, you know, it's bigger on the inside, you know, and people are just intrigued and they're amazed and mind blown, and it's all great. So you would have thought that they would have been like, okay, because it's even like that's one of the things that makes it quite powerful, is that there are two people, aren't there, that are standing with her, and just before the Doctor walks over, he said, look, you know, we're going to tame the planet, we're going to go out into the wilderness, we're going to do all this stuff and all the rest of it, which sounds absolutely horrific. Completely horrific. So you would have thought that, given the choice, you know, go out there and do that stuff, or go in a nice warm, you know, cozy TARDIS and get taken wherever you want to go. So that's what makes it even more powerful. It's like you would have thought they would have leapt at the opportunity to do that, but no, because of who the Doctor is and how he looks, you know, Lindy just, the way it was done was so good. Where the camera cut between, especially after he's had his moment where he screamed, you know, he's laughed at first and then he screamed. And there's that moment where the camera cuts between her face when she's on the boat looking back at him with that kind of look like, how could you even think about asking me to go with you?
It's a smugness, isn't it?
Disdain, smugness, yeah. And he's got that look like, you absolute, you know, go off to your death. You know, I've done my bit. If that's the reason why you don't want to come, then, you know, whatever. And you can see that in Millie Gibson's performance as well. She's kind of tearing up and she doesn't know quite what to say. So she sort of comforts him by putting her hand on his shoulder and stuff like that. And so it's an amazing piece of Doctor Who, that final bit.
And it shows the range, doesn't it, mate? Because I think that's the thing. We've had two sort of Doctor Light, for want of a better word, episodes in a row now in the middle of a series, and it's Ncuti's first series, and I do feel like we're almost at the end of the series, and I don't know that we've got to know Ruby and the 15th Doctor that well, to be honest, as characters, but what we have got to know is that they've both got tremendous range in terms of their acting, and even in an episode like this where they're not in it much, they're able to deliver an amazing performance and absolutely stand out in that episode. So I'm just loving the fact we have someone in the part of the Doctor, someone playing this role that has such range like this, that can go from the comedy and the seriousness, which is something I think both of us have always liked with the character of the Doctor, is when they can do that, and Ncuti can deliver that in you know, bucket loads. He's incredible at it. Yes,
no, 100%, mate. Yeah. Which is why this episode is so frustrating and gutting for me, because 95% of it I just cannot get on board with. It's like one extreme to the other. For me, it's like the bulk of the episode's just... And you know, if you like this episode, then absolutely fair play, you know, that's all good. But for me, I just really struggle to get past what I mentioned earlier, the mega obviousness of it, and, you know, and some of those tropes and whatnot. But then to have the last few minutes be like that, where it's gone from being absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely dire to just absolutely phenomenal, just in the space of like 5 seconds. That's what's frustrating to me. There's no middle ground. It's, you know, I can't say, oh, you know, it was pretty good up to that point, but then the last bit of it was like, made it, you know, an amazing episode. It was like, oh, it's so frustrating. It could have been a great episode, the bulk of it, and which would have made for an even better ending, you know, even more powerful and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's one of those for me, mate. Yeah, I
get you, and you're not alone, mate. As I said, nearly every podcast I've listened to have been along the similar lines of you. They've not enjoyed it. I was quite surprised at I haven't actually heard one. No, sorry, I've heard one positive podcast in terms of liking this episode out of about the 4 or 5 I've listened to this week, and all the others. I don't want to say negative actually, because that's the wrong word to use. They didn't enjoy it, like yourself. They wanted to enjoy the episode, but they didn't. So you're not alone. But I think a lot of fans, on Twitter and that, seem to have enjoyed it. And then you've got me stuck in the middle, where I sort of enjoyed it. So I don't know, but you're not alone, mate. It does seem this has been this episode has divided opinion quite a lot, like a lot of episodes do. But this one in particular just seems a bit of a Marmite episode.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely Marmite, mate. Defo. Okay. Has you got anything on your notes, dude, before we put a score on this?
Just one thing, which is Murray's music. I thought it was superb in this episode. And you might think, really, nothing really stood out. But honestly, like the undertones to, adding threat to the episode, because as I said, the slugs themselves weren't that threatening. Honestly, mate, if you ever go back and rewatch this, which you probably won't, just listen to Murray's music. He really is doing some great work underneath the scenes, adding a lot of sort of tension music. And the end scene, it's almost Bond-esque. Did you notice that bit of music at the end, in the very last scene?
I did.
It's brilliant. Yeah. I can't even think how it goes there.
Like Daniel Craig.
Yeah. That very last bit of music in the episode that leads into the theme song cutting in and the credits. Superb piece of music, and almost bombastic for that scene, but it works. It really, really gets you going. So I loved Murray's music in this one, and I could tell he was trying new stuff. It didn't some of it did not sound like Murray, and I think you may have said this last week or the week before, that he's definitely trying some new stuff. And I just thought Murray's music was great this week.
Yeah, agreed. No, I did pick up on that, especially that last bit as well. Very, very cool. Yes. Right. Okay. I think it's you to go first, bud.
It is. I wish it wasn't, actually, because I don't know what to score this one. I'm so on the blimmin' fence with this, mate. Honestly, I hoped a second watch would sort my head out with it, but I'm sorry to say it didn't. I'm going to give it a 7, I think. I'm sort of 6.57. I'm going to give it a 7. I think it was good. I think it was good, but I think it just had a few plot holes and a lot of missed opportunity, but I don't think it was bad. I'm going to go with a 7.
You're going to go with a 7, right?
Go on.
Cool.
What are you going to give it?
Okay, I'm going to give this a 3.
No way!
I'm going to give it a 3, mate.
No!
Yeah. I really did not enjoy it at all. And to be honest with you, those 3 points are just the last few minutes, really.
Wow.
Those 3 points is like, 2 of those points are for the last 3 minutes of the episode, and the other point is just how visually great the whole thing looks in production and Murray's music and stuff. I can't go any higher than that, mate. Honestly,
okay.
I cannot. Even after the second watch, I think, to be honest with you, potentially the second watch done me in more than the first one, because I came away the second time thinking, I'm not going to reach for that one in a long time. The only time that I think I'd ever rewatch it is if there was some crazy screening going on at a convention where we're at in the future somehow, and it's on, or if I'm doing like a marathon, I'm going through modern Doctor Who and I get to it and I don't know.
So you liked Space Babies more than this?
I did, yeah.
Oh mate, because
not by much. I gave it a 4. Space Babies,
because that's how I gave it a 4. But that's how I felt about Space Babies, that I'll never watch that episode again unless I'm forced to, like Clockwork Orange style, at a screening with my eyes held open. I'll never go back and watch the episode because I disliked it that much. So you feel like that about this? Wow. Yeah,
I do, mate. Yeah, okay. And it's, at first I thought it was one of those Twilight episodes for me. I don't mean like the episode itself was like the Twilight Zone. What I mean is, am I in the Twilight Zone? Because I've watched it and I thought that was bloody dreadful. And then I look online and everyone's like, the best episode of modern Doctor Who, the best thing we've seen since sliced bread, and the best thing ever. And I'm thinking, I think I'm watching the wrong thing again. I think I'm in another dimension. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed it more than me, dude. And but it's just not for me, that one, unfortunately. But we did have a few people, obviously. I didn't get round to do this last week because we were pushing over 2 hours last week. So, unfortunately didn't have enough time to go through all of your thoughts, which I did apologise for on Twitter. So I'm very sorry we didn't get round to your thoughts last time, but we have got them this time. So let me just bring up this one here. Should have had this prepared. This is professional podcasting, by the way.
This is how you do it.
This is how you do it. Yep. I'll bring the Facebook up in a second. Right, over on the Twitter, we had our writer Jordan Shortman said, I weirdly enjoyed it. I liked that the character we follow was horrible in an opposite to characters like Sally Sparrow, and that the character we did like died. That was a good inversion. The performances were great, as were the special effects. A Marmite story, but one I enjoyed.
Oh, okay, cool.
Our friends over at the Doctor Who Show podcast says if RTD wanted a real Black Mirror ending, we would have been set up to love Lindy all through the episode until the end with a crushing rug pull. Instead, she's pretty awful throughout, and the ending is, hey, look, the awful person was awful. Not quite the same punch. Yes, I agree with that, which is what I mentioned earlier. You know,
that's the first podcast I listened to after the episode. Actually, was the Doctor Who Show, and they weren't impressed. Let's put it that way.
But they're not impressed, no. Which is what I mentioned earlier. No, it's a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's very, isn't it cool that like Doctor Who referenced like influenced by Black Mirror?" And I'm thinking, not really. A little bit, but not as much as you think. Yeah. Anyway, Chippy T says more than just an analogy of modern technology in now/future society. It's asking you who the real monsters are. There seems to be rising anger and despair in the Doctor, which could explain why he's always crying. Didn't like the design of the creature, but gets away with it. 8, please. Okay, an 8 from Chippy. Edward Galooly, I enjoyed this. Callie Cook was good as Lindy. My main issues are that the Doctor cried yet again, and it was another Doctor-like story too. In an 8-episode season seems too many. If your lead actor is unavailable for 1/4 of your episodes, then you need to delay filming. Still, I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay, 7.
A 7, yeah. And then lastly, Everett Stephen says, I like this one. It was clever and inventive, even if the ending was a little bit on the nose. We don't need to see the Doctor crying again. My complaint is the same as I have of the series as a whole. There is not enough Doctor in Doctor Who. Ruby still comes across as a bit of a plot device rather than the fully fleshed out companion. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I do want to see him stop crying. I think it was justified in this one, but yeah, it's a little bit too much crying going on. I agree.
There was a wee bit. Yeah. Just a little bit. Yeah. Right, over on the Facebook. Let me just bring these up. Here we go. Right, expand some of the... Right, some of these are quite long, so as usual, I won't read the entire thing. I'll just give you the headlines on some of these. But first up, we had Harry Walker, another one of our writers, says,
that's a familiar name.
Really surprised by this one. It does suffer from a bit of lazy writing as the bugs aren't really explained, but the satire is intelligently dumb, and it engaged me in a way other overly political episodes of Doctor Who have done not so recently. The scene at the end with the Doctor still trying to save racist, classist, overall scumbags was very Jesus-like and one of the best in the show's history. 8 out of 10 from Harry.
Cool. Cheers, Harry.
Cheers, Harry. Lloyd Graver says, went into the episode with zero expectations, knowing it was a Doctor Light episode, but came out of it mildly surprised. Callie Cook gave a lovely and vibrant performance, and with a delightfully dark twist to her character. I did think Shooty was a little OTT in the final scenes, which left me asking why it was scripted that way. Goes on to say, interesting concept / analogy of how technology is binding us as well. 7.5, strong episode.
7.5, okay.
Yeah, Jeff Waddle says, a half-decent story, unfortunately let down by the fact that the central character is so unlikable from the start. I wish she'd been offed right away. The AI was linked to everyone, so could easily have killed them instantly, so what was the point of the slugs? Do slugs have the capability to think alphabetically? The end scene was so contrived, it felt unsatisfactory. Millie has been sassy and sarcastic every week. She doesn't say a word about them being racist, ? She'd have tried to get them to see reason, surely. Capaldi would have waved them off in their vehicle with a middle finger.
He would have.
The doctor does nothing but cry again. Good intentions, but fell flat for me. A 6 out of 10.
Okay.
That's still not a bad score, Jeff. Alex Bobbins, cool name, says, I expected to hate Dot and Bubble, but it's pretty good. It's an episode that I'm still thinking about days after, something that Space Babies managed for precisely 30 seconds. The ending was really powerful, and for once, the tears of the Doctor felt earned. But with no redemption arc for Lindy, I'm not sure how this episode will stand up for repeat viewing. Hoping there's an alternative timeline where the incredible man-traps enjoy a Lindy pepper bean buffet. 6.5 out of 10.
The spin-off we all want to see.
Yeah. Richard Hardman says, I've done a complete 180. On first viewing, I thought it was all rather disposable, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Yeah, the world does not feel realistic. I'm guessing the home world was the same. I'm not sure it has a rewatch ability, though. I don't really know how to rate it. It's either a 4 or an 8. LOL.
Yeah, sounds a bit like me, actually. A bit conflicted on this one.
Yeah, but like you, mate. Yeah. Paul McCahon says, I'm butchering that, I'm very sorry. Paul McCahon says, not one for me, but loved the last 5 minutes. Shooty is fire and ice and rage. He's like the night and the storm in the heart of the sun. Very good, Paul.
Yes.
Very good. Warren Green says, if can assume the fine time population had their education / worldview from the AI system, surely racist attitudes may not be their fault. ? We'll ponder that one, Warren. Max Smith, an incredibly mid story with very little in terms of character development, in my opinion. The twist at the end was okay, but I do feel that this Doctor seems to cry a lot. When 10 cried, you felt the seriousness of it all. But with 15, a light breeze could set him off. Overall, I'll give it a 3 out of 10.
3.
Oh dear. Tim Ullman says, had fairly low expectations, fearing it was another light and frothy RTD story, but it turned out to be a lot darker and more interesting than I expected. Shooty's spittle-soaked climax was impressive, and the actress playing Lindy made the most of a difficult role. 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Mark Hugill, thought-provoking. Makes a change to end up hating one of the main characters. Definitely one for a rewatch. Looked impressive, even the man-trap monsters, and had great music. 8 out of 10.
Sweet.
Endef Owen says, looking forward to episode 400. Congratulations on reaching this amazing milestone in broadcasting. Thank you. It's not even an episode review, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paul Graham says, loved it. Surprising that my 2 favourite stories this year have been Dr. Light, but this was tense, entertaining and genuinely frightening, both in the suspense but also the realisation that this is where we are going. The ending was signalled throughout by the monoculture of her space bubble, but a twist for the character whom I hoped was going to be the next Sally Sparrow. Paul gives it 10 Tractator tributes out of 10.
Nice.
I love that. And lastly, Andrew Stewart. It's quite a long one, so he says, I loved it. I thought it was amazing and powerful, which conveyed the message perfectly. Even though I am myself not of colour, I have family and friends who are, and have unfortunately had this sort of abuse. I watched it at midnight and loved it so much I watched it on the broadcast and loved it even more a second time round. It goes on to say, Shooty was phenomenal in the last scene, and I started to well up on the first time round, and I felt terrible for the Doctor. It goes on to say, poor Ricky, he seemed like the only okay person in fine time, and he, as he didn't reject to listen to Doctor's help. 8.75, very precise.
Very precise.
Out of 10. So far, I've loved every episode in this series and can't wait to see what we've got yet to come. So...
Nice.
Overall, dude, fairly positive reaction from our listeners, at least. I think the average score is probably a 7-ish.
Yeah.
7-ish, I would say. So, yeah.
And a lot of feedback there, mate. A lot of people are talking. It's got this episode's got people talking, hasn't it? If it's done, nothing else. it's sparked a debate and discussion, which is good.
Yes, and you and I have said many, many times over the years that we would rather that than an episode be sort of meh and people be indifferent. And it's like, should we talk about Doctor Who? Yeah, but not that one because there's nothing to talk about. It's just meh. Yeah. So if it's got people talking, whether good or bad, then that's a very cool thing. So very cool. Rightio then, dude. I think we should wrap it there for episode 400.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 400 of the Big Blue Box podcast. That was our review of Dot and Bubble, which was a 7 from him and a low score of 3 from me. Next week we'll be reviewing the episode Rogue, which is the kind of old school period drama Bridgerton style episode. So we'll see what is happening with that one. That's not an RTD episode, so we'll see what happens with that one. So make sure you watch that on the old BBC iPlayer stream at midnight, or on BBC, or if you're in the US or another country, get it watched on Disney Plus, because we'll be asking for your thoughts and reviews as always. And in the meantime, make sure you are following or subscribing to the Big Blue Box in whatever podcast app you listen to your podcasts in. You won't miss an episode when they go out every Friday, and the monthly roundtable episodes as well. You can listen for free on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, and you can check out all the reviews and articles from the writing team. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, links on the website, or do a search for us. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, and we have a very cool free Discord server. There's a link on the website. Hop in there and chat Doctor Who with lots of other very cool Who fans. Also check out my co-host channel. Don't forget to remember to do that. It's called The Geek's Handbag over on YouTube.
The Geek's Handbag, go check out my YouTube channel. Lots of Doctor Who unboxings and location visits and all sorts of things. Go and have a look.
Go and check him out. He's on the socials too under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Alright, bud. Until next week, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,